In a rugged valley cradled by jagged peaks, the Valori tribe clung to life along a clear river, where willows swayed and fish darted. Kale, a wiry boy of 15 with dark eyes and short black hair, hauled a clay jug of water, his patched brown tunic damp with sweat. His days were toil, mending nets, tracking goats, tending fires, but his mind wandered beyond the horizon. By night, he sat by the hearth, absorbing elders' tales of a time when the valley's 7 tribes stood as one, before feuds and famine tore them apart. Kale saw the valley's heartbeat in its rivers, linking tribes now divided. Raiders from the lowlands struck often, stealing livestock and leaving ash. As dawn painted the peaks gold, Kale gazed toward distant hills, a restless spark in his chest. The valley was dying, and hiding was no answer. He dreamed of unity, though he was no warrior, no chief's son, just Kale, the boy who listened. Yet beneath his quiet frame, a fire grew. The elders' voices echoed in his mind, urging caution, but Kale knew, the tribes must stand together, or fall alone. Under a sky thick with stars, Kale slipped from the Valori camp, the river's murmur his guide. Smoke rose from the Dravani lands, raided at dusk. Barefoot, in his patched brown tunic, Kale approached their camp, heart thudding. Lean guards, scarred and wary, leveled spears, their leather vests glinting with bone beads. "I'm no warrior," Kale said, hands raised, his dark eyes steady despite fear. "But we fall if we stand apart." His raw, earnest words pierced their suspicion. The guards, exchanging glances, led him through smoldering tents to their chief. Kale stepped into the firelit camp, embers glowing like fallen stars. He stood alone, a boy among warriors, his voice trembling but clear. "The raiders prey on our division," he told the guards, pleading for an audience. Their leader, unseen in the shadows, would decide his fate. Kale's pulse raced, but he held his ground, driven by a vision of tribes united. The guards' spears lowered slightly, intrigued by the boy's boldness. In that moment, Kale felt the weight of his choice. To speak was to risk death, but silence was a greater doom. Inside a Dravani tent, firelight flickered across furs and weapons. Kale, his black hair tousled, stood in his brown tunic, facing Chief Torva, a grizzled man with a scarred brow, gray-streaked beard, and a bear fur cloak. Torva sat on a wooden stool, eyes narrowing as Kale spoke. "We share rivers, ancestors, enemies," Kale said, his dark eyes bright with conviction. "Together we're more." Torva's skepticism was a wall, his voice a growl. "Words are cheap, boy. Prove your courage." Kale's heart pounded, but he didn't falter. He saw the Dravani's pain, stolen herds, burned homes, and offered a path forward. "Test me," he said, voice steady. Torva leaned forward, weighing the boy's mettle. The tent's warmth pressed against Kale, the air thick with smoke and doubt. Warriors murmured, their shadows dancing on the walls. Kale stood small but unyielding, his vision of unity burning brighter than fear. Torva's scar twitched, a faint smile breaking. "Steal back our herd," he said, alone. Kale nodded, accepting the challenge. As he left the tent, the fire's glow lingered in his eyes. A spark of hope kindled in the Dravani's heart. Moonlight bathed the raiders' outpost, a sprawl of tents in a narrow gorge. Kale, in his patched brown tunic, crouched near tethered cattle, his dark eyes scanning the firelit camp. Barefoot, he moved silently, fingers swift as he untied knots. The herd lowed softly, restless under his touch. A snoring guard slumped nearby, ale mug spilled. Kale's breath was measured, his heart a drum. When a patrol's lantern bobbed close, he pressed against a boulder, dust clinging to his tunic. The light passed, and he exhaled, urging the cattle forward. Their hooves whispered on soft earth as he guided them into the hills. A raider stirred, shouting, but Kale was a shadow, weaving through rocks. The herd moved as one, driven by his calm. By sunrise, he reached the Dravani camp, cattle lowing behind him. Warriors gaped, and Chief Torva, his bear fur cloak billowing, clapped Kale's shoulder. "You've got iron, boy," he said, laughter turning to awe. Kale, dusty and breathless, felt the valley shift. One tribe's trust was won, but 6 remained. The stars above seemed to wink, urging him on. At the standing stones, weathered monoliths loomed under a windy sky, their carvings faded but sacred. Kale stood at the circle's heart, his patched brown tunic whipped by the breeze, his dark eyes resolute. Chiefs gathered, their warriors bristling. Chief Torva, in his bear fur cloak. Chief Vren, a towering Karath smith with oak-like arms and a braided beard, and others, pride and grudges thick as fog. "We are not enemies," Kale said, his voice cutting the din. "Raiders grow strong because we're weak. Together, we're the valley's heartbeat." Murmurs turned to shouts. Vren's shadow swallowed Kale. "Prove your wisdom, boy," he rumbled. Kale traced a map in the dirt. Trap the raiders in Blackfang Canyon, Valori nets, Dravani riders, Karath blades. The chiefs leaned in, wary but intrigued. "Who leads?" Vren pressed. "I will," Kale said, as bait. Gasps echoed. His calm certainty silenced doubters. Torva nodded, then Vren grudgingly. The stones stood witness, as if the ancestors watched. Kale's heart swelled. He was no chief, yet the valley listened. On a grassy hill, Kale taught the tribes, his brown tunic stained with sweat. He showed Sylvie scouts in green cloaks, a horn signal for advance. His dark eyes sparkled, voice clear. In the distance, Dravani riders galloped, horses snorting. Karath smiths hammered blades, sparks flying. Chief Torva, his bear fur cloak billowing, watched approvingly. Chief Vren, in his leather apron, nodded, arms crossed. Kale moved among them, sharing Valori bread with Sylvie, laughing with Dravani, hammering steel beside Karath. At night, he learned Tovari healers' herbs and Lirith weavers' songs. Bonds grew over fires, fragile but real. Kale's wisdom shone, not in commands, but in listening. He wove the tribe's strengths, Sylvie's stealth, Ren's arrows, Tovari's care. Torva clapped his back, his scar twitching with pride. Vren, once skeptical, offered a forged dagger. "For the bait," he grunted. Kale smiled, tucking it into his belt. The valley hummed with purpose, its people no longer strangers. As twilight fell, Kale gazed at the peaks, feeling the weight of trust, ready to face the raiders. Twilight cloaked Blackfang Canyon as Kale, in his brown tunic, rode a wiry pony, a sling in hand. His dark eyes blazed, taunting raiders. "Hey, you gutless dogs!" A stone cracked a helm, and the enemy charged, war cries shaking the earth. Kale galloped, drawing them deeper. Sylvie scouts lit signal fires, Valori nets dropped, tangling horses. Dravani riders, led by Chief Torva in his bear fur cloak, swept in, lances gleaming. Ren archers loosed arrows from cliffs, a hissing storm. Chief Vren, in his leather apron, wielded an axe among Karath warriors, their blades a wall. Kale dodged a spear, its tip grazing his arm. Blood welled, but he grinned, fierce and alive. The raiders faltered, trapped. Sylvie harried flanks, Tovari healers bound wounds, Lirith weavers tore cloaks for bandages. The tribes fought as one, their rhythm the valley's pulse. The raiders broke, fleeing into dust. Kale, breathless, met Torva's nod and Vren's grim smile. The canyon, once a grave, sang a victory. Under a golden dawn, the standing stones glowed, their carvings alive. Kale, his brown tunic torn, arm bandaged, stood humbly as tribes cheered. Chief Torva, his bear fur cloak draped over broad shoulders, clapped Kale's back. "You saw what we couldn't," he said. Chief Vren, his braided beard framing a proud smile, knelt, a gesture no chief had made. First voice, he declared, "Lead us." The title roared, a tide of trust. Kale raised a hand, silencing them. "This is our victory," he said, dark eyes warm. "One tribe, one heartbeat." The valley began to heal. Dravani shared horses, Karath forged plows, Sylvie mapped hunts. Kale, now first voice, walked among them, listening, guiding, never above but beside. At night, he told stories of the valley's strength, its rivers, its people. The stones stood watch, as if ancestors smiled. Kale, still a boy in years, stood tall, the valley's hope woven into his heart.